much earlier in my life. You know, it's a kick, it's a thrill doing this kind of work, and I should have started much, much earlier.
So the one thing that, looking back, I think I would have done differently is the emphasis that I placed and a number of our companies placed in the 2008-2009 timeframe on all of the stimulus funding and government packages that were being bandied about. And I think, you know, there were no fatal mistakes made in that process for our companies, but there was certainly time lost, and there were certainly resources that we could have utilized more effectively. But there's always that, you know, that promise right around the corner of the big project that's tied to a big chunk of, you know, stimulus money and rebates. And so I think that the lesson is, I love at an early stage SBIR funding and RPE funding and other programs that you can leverage which are non-dilutive to help you get going. Maybe you can take a little bit of seed capital and get going with that. But I think it's you need to be very careful as you're thinking about beginning to build sales and validating your product commercially, that you avoid relying on the subsidies that may be available at a given point in time. Because they can go away very quickly and they can be very, very difficult to capture.
Well, two things. One thing, I probably would have taken the money and spent it on a good vacation instead of putting it into a bunch of solar stocks end of 2007. And secondly, with the risk of sounding somewhat arrogant, I would not have listened to entrepreneurs telling me that they will not be affected by the downturn because their technology is so great. Because in the end, maybe the technology was great, but customers still were hit by the economic downturn, and that affects everybody. And it's very rare that there is an opportunity where that does not happen.
Well, thank you. You know, I have 61 more points. I was just told that it's 8:45, and we should be taking some more questions. So I decided to end it abruptly and not take my 61 more points. So, thank you very much. My key takeaways from this discussion, I got 5 key takeaways. One is, Cleantech is down but not dead. That is how we started this whole conversation. Our strategies in the last couple of years in the investment have been right, not too wrong. Efficient use of energy is going to be having a lot more promising opportunities in future. The balance of systems doesn't matter whether it is solar or it is wind or it is any other technology. The balance of system in power electronics will open up a lot more avenues to solve a lot many problems. And the fifth one is, this is an exciting field. You have all the reasons to feel excited, but drive back home safely. Questions from the audience?
You've spoken about many subcategories of Cleantech. You didn't speak about storage. And the question is for the entire panel, but specifically Tim yourself, the coupling of storage and solar as related to services and to energy efficiency.
So, I'm not a storage expert, but I know enough to have walked away from some early opportunities. Maybe just rough numbers. The installed cost per watt today of a solar system, maybe, you know, big system, $3 per watt. Even at that, if it's a standalone solar investment, we're struggling to have a competitive cost of energy that competes with conventional sources. If you were to, and in many cases it's not competitive, bottom line solar on its own, if you were to layer on a storage component, which is what solar desperately needs to become a dispatchable, firm power source. I don't know, maybe some storage experts on the panel or in the room can answer. I think it's also about $3 a watt, for something in that range, probably getting better, I hope getting better. You've now doubled. You've taken an already expensive form of electricity, you've doubled effectively the price of it just to make it firm and dispatchable. And even then, it's, as I understand, it's not truly firm and dispatchable. It takes a very large storage facility to, you can add some shoulder onto your production or extend your production into a few hours later, but you can't truly create dispatchable power with storage today. We'd love to see a solution. We're out there looking and not so much investing, but certainly prowling the market for any type of opportunity. I was surprised and disappointed to see Beacon Power go down in flames 2 days ago. I thought there was some prospect for flywheels, which most people don't think of when they think of storage. Anyway, that's a short answer. It just doesn't work economically today. We desperately need it. It's too expensive. And not...
There are ways, by the way.
What's that?
I think there are ways to calculate economically and actually to improve the combined economics as related to standalone storage.
I agree with you, and we have teams of people working on that, looking at that. In limited applications today, it absolutely can work, not at scale though. That's our thesis so far.
Right here.
The question I have, maybe Tim from Sun Edison can answer, or Bosch. Is it Paul from Bosch? There's advertising that PG&E claims that plugged-in devices that are not on drain energy from the grid, and they recommend that you unplug devices that you don't need. Now, it's not realistic in a house to walk around and unplug all your devices every night. Wouldn't there be a simple way to invent something that could end that problem of energy leaving the grid from plugged devices, or minimize that? Maybe a grounder or something? Do you guys have any idea of what percentage of a household's energy use is, what percentage that is you could save if you were to stop that?
You didn't ask me, but I'll jump in, because I think the issue is that it's a very, very small percentage, and the cost of the solution far outweighs the savings, and the effort required to go and make the purchase and do the installation is a hassle in an area where a lot of people just don't. I mean, we did the poll. I think it was probably overrepresentation in this room relative to the broad population. How many people care about the parasitic losses or the savings they could have, in their home? I think it would be great if there's a simple solution that perhaps was embedded in devices that got shipped, and there was almost no cost to doing it, but there was an intelligent way of figuring out how to do that. Maybe then it gets shipped with the devices you're already buying, and it's not an extra add-on thing you've got to go think about doing. Maybe that's the answer.
Or possibly a device that you hook up to a house?
No, that's not good.
I mean, if you look at residential, and we have an investment in residential, and it's around HVAC controls, and it's not a hardware piece; it's a software delivered as a service. And the reason is we think that it needs to be easy, and most people don't care. So it's got to be like your house is on autopilot. You just get, you can't think about it, and it's got to be cheap. It's got to be easy to trial. Can't be, complex to integrate or costly. That's my belief.
Yeah, I mean, every time I looked at it, it's not so significant in any individual house. It looks significant in aggregate if you look at the phantom power that's consumed, but on an individual basis, and it's not going to be subsidized by utility. So.
So my question specifically is for the energy efficiency market segment that you mentioned is good growth potential. How do you see the standardization of the equipment, and considering the regulatory differences between different countries? How do you standardize energy efficiency equipment or automation, or building automation, etc.? And also with respect to intellectual property protection, where do you see that playing? Because that seems to be a big issue. I cannot take an appliance from one country to another and make that this is your plug-and-play device. And this includes cloud, all the favorite areas that you mentioned, mobile. There's solutions that combine a lot of technologies. Just to standardize a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we currently deal with today. I mean, there's, if I was just thinking about wireless technologies for smart grid applications, not applicable in every country. So you need multiple solutions, right? I don't see, from a communication standpoint, I don't see any standardization globally anytime soon. I have no comment on the plug, you know, bringing an appliance with you. I mean, that's not my area of expertise, but.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if it's better. I'm kind of indifferent to whether an entrepreneur or a new company is trying to go after the US or the European market. I think you have to pick one first, and then you can migrate your solution from there. To be frank, if you look at the BMS or the BMA market, I mean, it's kind of a hodgepodge of 3 different vendors, right? It's Honeywell, Johnson Controls, and you know, they all kind of have a slightly different BMS solution. So, you know, they did it for a reason, right? It's so that there was no standardization. You couldn't do a hot swap of an HVAC system in one building from Johnson Controls to a Honeywell system. So I think that's kind of where the uniqueness of the solution comes in, is how do you bridge that gap? How can you suck value from that area of the value stream? Can you provide a solution to a customer where it allows him to play the Honeywells and the Johnson Controls off each other? And the key there is to try to make sure Johnson Controls and Honeywell don't control the channel for you. So like make sure that you're touching the customer and do that in an effective and efficient manner.
One more question, please.
When it comes to energy efficiency, 30 to 40% of energy is lost in transmission and distribution. Are you looking at that space, and have you found anything interesting in that space?
I can give you a quick answer. We certainly looked ahead at where things might be going. I've seen a couple of things that look very interesting there. And one of my areas of personal interest is everything that's happening with biomimicry, you know, for materials and all kinds of things. And one thing I looked at there is companies who are making hydrogen from sunshine. Because if I can do that, I can do it in remote places, I can do it in distributed locations, I can also build in capacitive storage that's far superior in terms of power density than anything but, you know, gasoline, the fuels that we have today. However, I think it's a ways off. I do.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Please join me in thanking the panel.
So we'll be here for a few more minutes if you would like to talk to the panelists. Again, thank you very much to all of you. Like I said, right from Chris, right from the airport to here, I know I can see you're still awake. So thank you very much, and to all of you, right from Cyril, Paul, Mike, and Tim, and Nick.